Have you ever thought about a band that just keeps going? No matter what, they just keep playing, keep rocking. A band whose sheer power has kept them right at the top for, what, half a century now?
Yeah, it's pretty credible. Welcome, everyone, to The Deep Dive. We're the show that unpacks complex stuff and pulls out the key insights. And today, we are diving headfirst into the roaring, electrifying 50-year journey of AC/DC, an iconic band, truly. They basically defined hard rock for generations.
Absolutely. And our mission here, is to get beyond just the big stadium anthems everyone knows. We want to explore the maybe surprising origins, those pivotal moments, and really the resilience that turned AC/DC into one of the biggest selling artists ever.
Right. We'll dig into the family connections, which are super important here, the controversies they faced, and just that sheer grit, the stuff that kept the whole rock and roll machine firing, even when they faced, immense tragedy and constant challenges.
So to do this, we've pulled together insights from, well, all over. Historical accounts, deep interviews, music industry analysis.
Yeah, even bits from record label archives, official discographies. We've tried to gather everything to give you a really comprehensive picture of this legendary group. You're basically getting a shortcut to being seriously clued in on AC/DC.
Okay, let's kick it off then. Where did that first spark happen for AC/DC? Back in Sydney, 1973. What was the dynamic like between the young brothers, Malcolm and Angus, right at the start?
Well, the spark was definitely them. Malcolm on rhythm guitar, Angus on lead, and that raw energy, that power, it was kind of baked into the name right away.
AC/DC, yeah. How did they even come up with that?
It was their sister, Margaret. She saw AC/DC on the AC adapter of her sewing machine. And the brothers just thought, yeah, that's it. It symbolized the raw energy, the power in their shows.
And how you say it matters too, right?
Yeah, technically it's letter by letter, AC/DC.
Yeah.
Oh, down in Australia, you'll often hear people call them akadaka, colloquially.
Akadaka, okay. And the look, the famous lightning bolt logo, was that there from day one?
No, that actually came a bit later. It was designed in 1977 by Gerard Huerta. First showed up on the Let There Be Rock album cover.
Ah, okay.
But it perfectly captured that electric feel, didn't it? What really mattered early on, though, I think, was the family foundation, their older brother, George Young.
From the Easy Beats, right. Huge band.
Exactly. He was a massive influence, a real mentor. He and his partner, Harry Vanda, actually produced their first recording sessions.
Wow. Having family already successful in the music business, that's got to be a huge leg up. How did George influence them beyond just the music, like the business side?
Oh, profoundly. George's success musically and, managing things showed Malcolm and Angus what was possible. It was encouraging, sure, but it also showed them the pitfalls, the tricky parts of the industry.
You're right.
Malcolm especially was apparently really sharp about the business stuff from early on, always watching where the money went. He definitely learned from watching George navigate it all.
Makes sense. So they've got this foundation, this drive. Take us to the first gig, New Year's Eve, 73. What was that initial lineup like? And I hear things got a bit chaotic pretty quickly.
Yeah, debut gig, December 31st, 1973. Checkers Club in Sydney, which was a pretty big deal, a top nightclub then.
Yeah.
The first lineup had Dave Evans singing, Colin Burgess on drums, and Larry Van Crete on bass.
Okay.
But yeah, turbulent is a good word for those early days. Barely a month later, January 74, Colin Burgess gets fired. Apparently he was out of sorts, fell over during a show. He always maintained someone spiked his drink.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that kind of set a pattern. Bass players, drummers, they changed pretty frequently in that first year or so. Guys like Neil Smith, Noel Taylor came and went. It shows they were still figuring things out, trying to nail down the lineup before Bon Scott arrived.
Right, a real trial and error phase, not just with musicians, but their image, too. I read they started out trying glam rock. That seems unlike AC/DC.
Totally. They dabbled in the glam rock look for a bit, but ditched it pretty fast. It just wasn't them. They shifted towards more of a pub rock sound and image.
Pub rock.
Yeah, like gritty, no frills, high energy stuff you'd hear in Australian pubs back then. Stripped back, maximum impact. And Malcolm Young being the strategist.
Brains behind the operation?
You could say that, yeah. He decided to get everyone in just jeans and t-shirts, standardize it, make it simple, tough, but with one massive exception.
Angus, the school uniform.
Exactly. Malcolm's idea. It instantly made Angus the visual focus, made them stand out completely from other bands like Skyhooks who were doing like clown outfits and stuff. It was genius, really.
Total masterstroke. Okay, speaking of genius moves and crucial decisions, let's talk Bon Scott. Dave Evans wasn't cutting it for the Youngs anymore.
By mid-74, yeah. They felt Dave wasn't quite right for the harder direction the music was taking.
Yeah.
His voice, his style, it didn't fit where they wanted to go, so the door opened.
And in walked Bon Scott. Tell us about him. He wasn't always a rock star, was he?
It's not at all. Fascinating background. He'd been a postman over in Fremantle, played drums and sang a bit in early bands like the Spectres, the Valentines. He even had a trip to England with a band called Fraternity in '72 that was apparently a total disaster. Left him broke.
So he had experience, but maybe was a bit down on his luck. What was the audition like? I've heard some pretty wild stories.
Right? Yeah, the stories are legendary. Reportedly, it involved maybe a gram of cocaine, a bottle of whiskey, running around the stage with his wife's undies on his head.
Seriously?
That's the legend. But look, beyond the craziness, what really hit the Young Brothers was his sheer vitality and vigor. His energy. He wasn't just performing, he was the performance. They knew pretty much instantly this was their guy.
Wow. And he became, like you said, the heart and soul of the band. He even called himself the lightning flash in the middle of AC or DC. What was it about his personality?
People described him as very cheeky, always laughing, always joking. He just had this incredible swagger, this authenticity. He wasn't pretending. He embodied that raw, kind of larrikin, no-nonsense spirit that AC/DC was building. Audiences just connected with him instantly.
Okay, so Bond's in place. Huge step. What were the next moves? How did they start really defining that sound and breaking out beyond Australia?
Well, strategically, they moved. Left Sydney for Melbourne.
Why Melbourne?
It was seen as more cosmopolitan, more venues, bigger scene, a better base to expand from. And George Young kept producing, crucially focusing on getting that raw, live energy onto tape. Like dirty records, he called it, not too polished.
Keep it raw. And that obviously worked because the album TNT in '75, that was a big turning point, wasn't it?
Huge. Yeah, TNT is often seen as their first proper album.
Yeah.
Sold over 100,000 in Australia alone, which was massive then. And importantly, it started getting noticed internationally.
Right, the world started listening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This was kind of the moment AC/DC really arrived on the world stage, showing their sound could travel. Then, the big leap. March '76, they signed with Atlantic Records internationally and moved to London.
Bold move, taking on the UK market directly.
Absolutely. Full of confidence. Apparently, their first UK show was at a place called the Red Cow. Hardly anyone there, but they played like they were headlining Wembley. Just total conviction that they were witnessing, the birth of a legend.
You got to have that self-belief, and that conviction definitely propelled them. Albums like Let There Be Rock in '77, people called it epic, climactic, took them up another gear.
It really did. And the touring, my God, the touring was relentless, especially breaking into the U.S.
Tell us about that first U.S. tour.
1977, something like 200 shows, often doing 2 shows a night, just starting right at the bottom, playing everywhere and anywhere, grinding it out to conquer America.
Wow, that's commitment.
Totally. And that hard work culminated in Highway to Hell in 1979. That album just exploded globally. It cemented them, made them undeniably one of the biggest bands in the world. They'd done it.
Incredible climb, just absolutely peaking. And then, February 1980, tragedy, the loss of Bon Scott, that detail about his last chat with FIFA Riccobono, excited about the new riffs, that's heartbreaking.
It's devastating. Yeah, he died from acute alcohol poisoning after a night out drinking heavily in London. Just awful.
How did the band even process that? Did they think about stopping?
Oh, absolutely. They seriously considered disbanding. I mean, how do you replace Bon Scott? It felt impossible. But, crucially, they got encouragement to continue. From Bon's own father, actually, and also from Ted Albert, their record label boss at Albert.
That must have meant the world. So they decide to go on. Who could possibly step into those massive shoes?
The search was intense, obviously. But they found Brian Johnson. And bringing him in? What turned out to be an absolutely crucial history-making decision.
And what followed with Back in Black, it's arguably the greatest comeback story in rock music.
It really is. Releasing Back in Black just months later in 1980.
Yeah.
It became this global phenomenon. A massive tribute to Bon, yes, but also just this incredible statement of resilience. It fulfilled Malcolm's dream, making AC/DC the biggest rock and roll band on the planet, a triumph born from absolute tragedy.
Amazing. But even after reaching that peak, the journey wasn't smooth sailing, was it? The 80s and beyond brought more challenges, lineup changes.
Yeah, the 80s had some commercial ups and downs, like Fly on the Wall in '85 was seen by some critics as a bit uninspired, but then they'd bounce back. Who Made Who in '86 for the Stephen King movie Maximum Overdrive got him back in the charts, top 20.
Right.
But the lineup shifts were significant. Malcolm Young had to step away in '88 to deal with alcoholism. His nephew, Stevie Young, filled in then and later permanently.
Wow, I didn't know that was that early.
Yeah. Then much later, drummer Phil Rudd ran into serious legal trouble in 2014 drug charges, threatening to kill. Chris Slade came back to replace him for a while. And then in 2016, Brian Johnson gets told by doctors he had to stop touring immediately or risk total deafness. Huge blow. They finished that tour with Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses singing.
Axl's Rose. That must have been interesting.
Definitely unexpected. And after that tour, longtime bassist Cliff Williams announced he was retiring, saying the band had changed too much. AC/DC went on hiatus. And then sadly, George Young, their brother and mentor, passed away in 2017. It really felt like it might be the end.
So many hits, one after another. Yet, they came back again. Their legacy just seems unbreakable. How did they pull off the latest reunion?
It's truly remarkable, isn't it? Testament to the music, the bond, the enduring appeal. They got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame back in 2003, honoring everyone. Johnson, Williams, Rudd, Angus, Malcolm, and Bon Scott.
Apparently so.
And then, after years of uncertainty, rumors flying, boom, they reunite. Brian Johnson back, Phil Rudd back, Cliff Williams back, alongside Angus and Stevie Young. They put out the Power Up album in 2020.
Which was huge.
Totally. And then they played their first show in 7 years at that Power Trip Festival in October 2023. Now they've announced a European tour for 2024. It's just incredible longevity.
It really is. But that longevity hasn't come without stirring the pot sometimes. Let's talk controversies. Their lyrics. They've often been criticized, haven't they? Simplistic, maybe repetitive, sometimes labeled sexist.
Yeah, that criticism has followed them for decades. Accusations of a deep strain of misogyny in some songs.
How did the band handle that?
They've always kind of deflected it, framing the lyrics as body humor, saying they're just pranksters. Malcolm Young once said they take the music far more seriously than we take the lyrics, which are just throwaway lines. But it's interesting, Siona Sturgis made a counter-argument, pointing to songs like Whole Lotta Rosie, suggesting the female characters in their songs are often actually in the driving seat in sexual terms. So maybe not as simple as just calling it misogynistic.
A different perspective. And lyrics weren't the only flashpoint. They got caught up in the satanic panic in the 80s too, right?
Oh yeah, big time. These bizarre false claims started swirling, linking AC/DC to devil worship. It got fueled when serial killer Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, was reportedly a fan and linked to their song Night Prowler.
That must have been terrifying for the band, dealing with that kind of public hysteria.
It was intense. Protests, boycotts, album burnings, especially in the U.S. But AC/DC's stance was firm. They refused to change for anyone. They wouldn't censor themselves or change their sound because of it. That refusal to bend under pressure really cemented their image as, completely uncompromising.
Sticking to their guns, you mentioned Ted Albert earlier, the Albert's Records boss who encouraged them after Bon died. His role seems really significant throughout their story.
Absolutely crucial. Ted Albert deserves huge credit. He believed in the Young brothers and the band right from the start. He backed them financially, gave them guidance, stuck with them. More than just a label head, he was a genuine champion for them.
And there's that touching story about him near the end of his life.
Yeah, it really shows his connection to the band. In 1990, he heard their album, The Razor's Edge. He was so impressed, he wrote to Malcolm, saying how incredible it was, and apparently even installed a subwoofer in his car in honor of it.
Wow.
And then, tragically, Ted passed away from a heart attack just a week later.
Yeah.
His legacy, though, is immense. He's credited with really putting Australian rock and roll on the international map, in large part through his unwavering faith in AC/DC.
What a story. So you've just taken us on a deep dive through this incredible 50-year saga of AC/DC. From those noisy Sydney pubs, they really did conquer the world with just raw, powerful, gimmick-free rock and roll.
Yeah, and we've seen how that family core, that sheer persistence, and just sticking religiously to their sound, let them overcome, unbelievable personal tragedies and all sorts of industry pressures.
It really underscores how having an authentic, consistent vision, even if some people call it simplistic or, controversial, can connect with people globally and build a legacy that just lasts, ignoring trends.
Definitely. They never tried to be anything they weren't.
So maybe the final thought for you listening is this. What does AC/DC's 5 decades at the top really tell us about the power of being unapologetically authentic, especially in a world that's always chasing the next big thing? Could sticking to your core identity, even when it seems outdated or maybe even provocative, could that be the real secret to lasting success and influence? Something to think about.